What do you think?
I think we are.
You know what? I'm glad we're at this hour. It's like one of my favorite hours of the week.
Me too. I agree.
So let me be the first to welcome you to episode 2 of the Who and A Show Live, starring you.
Thank you. I'm flattered. Who and A episode 2, live from Tiger Studios at Port 164 in Oklahoma City. So.
Yeah. Well, so thank you guys for joining us. Those of you who were with us last week joined us for kind of our first kickoff episode here at the new studios, as Alessondra cited. This is always a learning experience, you know.
Of course.
We're fortunate that we have the pro here behind the scenes with us, Steve Johnson, who's our producer and technical director, and he does a great job coming in here and volunteering his time to help run this. And he's learning an entirely new system, and he's done it rather quickly. So we've made some adjustments. As always, everything's a learning experience, and if you're a longtime viewer of the OKCOwlCam, you know that we try to always improve and always make it better and always tweak. And hopefully you like those improvements. One of those tonight being audio.
Oh, of course,
so, we've got these new mics and a new kind of audio system that works into this new studio, and getting that dialed in just right is always kind of a tedious thing. And I know that at least for those who watched, there were a few comments I noticed out of the gate when we posted the episode last week. I can't hear you. We're not going to watch this. I can't hear you. It's like, okay, well, watch past the first 90 seconds or so because the audio kind of corrected itself after that. We kind of got off and running, and so hopefully bear with us. You know, we're trying to make things better.
We're learning this too.
Yeah. So you know, another thing. Some people accused you of not paying attention last week.
Yeah.
What was up with that?
Oh, so just if those of you guys that don't know, we have a screen right here I'm pointing right to it. I'm looking at it now, where we can see, you know, what you guys are seeing, and we can also see chat. So if either one of us are looking away, we're looking at chat and, you know, how we look. So it's not that we're not paying attention to each other or ignoring each other. It's just we're paying attention to you guys as well.
Yeah. So we have this flat panel display that has chat, and that's how we're able to answer your questions, see what people are saying, kind of keep it interactive. And for those who thought maybe you weren't quite being attentive to what was at hand, it was just the opposite, in fact. And believe me, as your dad, I know when you're not being attentive and when you're not paying attention to me.
Yes.
So I would have probably handled that a little differently had that been the reality last week, right?
Yes, of course.
Cool. So that's some feedback that we've gotten in the comments. We love the comments. We do read through those. I try to protect you from the ones I don't want you reading. Especially if they're from boys who have nice things to say about you. But it does lead us to a question we've been talking about over the past couple weeks as it relates to the audio, or the audience, rather.
Yes.
We love hearing from them. But what do we call them? What do we call you people?
Exactly. Like, we need, like, I'm sorry, I just kind of, so, like, you know.
Remember to talk right into your mic there, Steve.
So, like, any kind of fan base, I guess, kind of needs a name. Like, you guys need an official name. Like,
right. So most of the YouTube channels that have a big following, I mean, in particular, are centered around one person, one personality or another. Yeah. They always have some cool name that they call their audience.
Exactly. And obviously, like, the OKCOwlCam, like, you guys need one too. So, like, just if any of you guys have any suggestions on what the OKCOwlCam fans should be called, then that would be great.
Yeah, so you had a couple in mind, and so remember to talk right into that microphone so everybody hears you this week.
So I mean, we've been thinking either the Who Crew or the Who Squad, which is one of my favorites.
You like Who Squad? That's
Who Squad.
Your favorite, right?
Oh yeah, I like the names. I mean, I like the word squad a lot. I use it a lot.
Well, and I like the Who Squad. Who Crew
rhymes.
Sounds nice.
Yeah.
We already call the moderators the Modley Crew,
yeah,
so it's a little close to home there, but.
Yeah, so any suggestions? Also, I'd like to give that little shout out to the band, the Hootin' Hooligan Humans. So, you know who you are. It's pretty much any chatters. If y'all want to join the band, you can join.
Yeah. Well, I've yet to hear this band practice, but
trust me, we're great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So these are members of like the chat that you've hooked up with, and
it was like a few weeks ago. We were just like, y'all, we should start a band.
Hey, turn that mic a little this way so that when you do look at the screen, it's still aimed right at your mouth and people can hear you.
I'm gonna break it.
No, you won't. There you go. So, All right, so I experimented. There's some features with YouTube that we're still learning. One of those is a card that I think might show up during the show that allows you to vote on some of those ones we had thought of it in advance. And then we'd love to hear your feedback in the comments, here in chat or in the comments later. And I think next week we might decide the identity of these people. Everybody loves when you announce a name.
Oh, yeah.
And since we can't really name owls yet, maybe we can name the collective that follows the OKCowlCam and this great little personality known as Alessondra. So speaking of you, what's new in your life? You kind of evaded that question last week, and I caught you off guard. So, I mean, let's talk about some of the things that personally, what's going on with you lately? What's new in your life?
I mean, okay, so I recently got into vinyls, so listening to music on vinyls. So
you love music. You're a music aficionado.
Part of music is my life. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
But I'm really into music.
So for Christmas, what did you get?
I recently got a vinyl player that is one of my favorite albums, actually. Blurry Face by 21 Pilots. So.
So that was kind of like your key big Christmas gift that you got this year from mom and dad.
Yeah, I'm also a big fan of Def Leppard, so that was on Christmas morning. Right after I woke up. So. And
I couldn't be more proud to hear you say that.
That's
Daddy's band.
I got Hysteria, which is like the best album in the history of albums on vinyl. So.
There's only one album that outsold that album in the '80s. You know what album it was?
What album was that?
Michael Jackson's Thriller.
That's also an amazing album.
It is, yeah. So, for those who like to knock Def Leppard, they were a pretty big driving force in music.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got your music, which you're into Spotify and Apple Music, which you and I have our shared playlists, and we're constantly sharing music back and forth, which is one of my favorite things to do with you. You're into vinyl, but you're also into a new sport.
Oh yeah, I started playing hockey the beginning of this summer.
Which is crazy. I never would have guessed that you would have just one day decided you want to play hockey. I took some video of your game last night, which was the best game I've ever seen you guys play. It was so intense.
Number 52 there. I had the puck. I have the puck right there. My team, ironically, is the Penguins, and I'm a Capitals fan.
Why is that ironic?
I'm a huge Capitals fan, and sorry to any of the Penguins out there, but I'm a huge Capitals fan, and I don't like the Penguins. But I'm on the Penguins.
Well, I pretty much am just a fan of any team you're on, so I was really proud of you last night. Like to take some video. I thought people might enjoy getting to see you
that
in
was
the action.
From last night.
You guys won it in a clutch moment.
Oh my gosh, last night was probably the most intense game we've had this season. It was super fun. We definitely won that. We were actually talking in the locker room after. My team's only lost one game this season, so we're actually the top in the league. So.
You know what I love too? Is that you're bold enough. I mean, you're one of I believe there are 3 girls on the team.
There are 3. Me, Avery, and Aspen.
Yeah.
We're all really cool.
And you're in there grinding it out, rough and tumble with the boys, and to the average person who doesn't know you, couldn't tell any difference in your skill level. You just get in there, you're on an equal plane with them, and I'm so proud of you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I want my daughters to be girls who just can do what they want, who have the confidence, and I'm so proud of you for seeing that.
Strong, independent woman.
So we've got a lot to talk about in this nest. Strangely, there's not a lot to talk about, but there's a lot to talk about because there's not a lot to talk about, right?
Of course.
So let's cover a few things that are new lately. I've brought in, and again, for those who've been with us in past seasons, as the season progresses, new things start to appear, right? I don't like to start with the best. I like to just kind of gradually ease into it and bring in new features and new surprises. And often people love it. Sometimes not everybody does. But I like to let it evolve and improve. So one of the new things that you'll see on the live stream, which you don't see quite right now because we're here in the studio, but I've brought in the real-time weather data, which is straight from the the nest ledge, or at least within about 20 feet of it or so. We've got a weather station. Some friends of ours from the company that makes Mimo Live, which is our in-studio and live stream software, along with some software partners of theirs called T-Boy Software. They make a weather data application that can talk to our production software. And with the right kind of weather station to talk to that software, I can pipe that data right into our stream. So as you watch the stream at the very bottom of it right now, or at least when we go back to the live stream, you'll be able to see exactly what the conditions are in the nest. I've got temperature to the 10th degree, literally. I have wind speed, wind direction, humidity. So all those different conditions you'll be able to watch live to see really what the owls are enduring, because we're really not even quite started into the hardcore aspects of how winter can be here, right? So we have that. Another cool feature I'm really excited about is something that the moderators have been working with me on. And many of you probably watch the OKCOwlCam at YouTube, right? I mean, that's where we stream from, but you may not know that we actually have a full-fledged website, which is OKCOwlCam.com, and you can go there and still watch the stream live. It's on the home page, but we also have, I'm going to use a cool word, a plethora of, do all right? A plethora of information about all things OKCOwlCam, just the history of it, some photos from way back when, information about past seasons, how the technology works, what devices we use. But one thing, we covered this a little bit last week about how we're data-driven. As this project has evolved over the years, with the help of the moderators, collecting data has been a really fun aspect of this. Not only just for the sake of how can we learn from the owls, but how can we predict their future behavior based on their past behavior?
Yes.
We talked about that last week and why it's not time to panic that the owls aren't back at the nest laying eggs yet. Because just to recap that, it was a month between their first set of eggs and the actual set of eggs that they ended up, incubating, who became our owls from last year. But as we've collected that data, we've tried to find a way to streamline it and make it really effective so that we can start to use it to the benefit of the users too, or the viewers. The data is shared with Carla Bloom at the International Owl Center.
Yes.
She does a lot of studying on that. We have Brenda Hinte, who's one of our go-to consultants. Robert Pruner, or Bob as we know him.
Yes.
They're very well-schooled in owls, and so this data is available to them to use however they want as well. But now we're starting to work on how can we put this to the benefit of the stream. So we developed a little solution that we call TAT, and that stands for Tiger Activity Tracker. Highly sophisticated stuff, right? And so, thank you for my tea, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome.
So when the mods are hosting chat and watching the stream, if something happens, something relevant that we want to track, they go and log it in the Tiger Activity Tracker. So they log into a special section. It's also where they can post nest news updates that you see in the news ticker. And as we've started collecting that data, we're going to be introducing different ways throughout the season of how we can visualize that data. So we have our first implementation of it, and Steve's going to take here to my desktop. And here you see the OKCOwlCam homepage, and as you load that, you'll see you've got the live stream that you can take to. You've got chat, various links up here. Our first visualization of the Tiger activity data is down here, and this is a visualization of nest visits, and we're tracking it by frequency. So the y-axis is the number of visits in a given day. The x-axis is the date. So this would be January 5th. In between that would be 6th and then to the 7th. And the darker gold is Altera visits, while the faded gold is Mr. T. So you can kind of see here how visitation has occurred over time. Now, here we have the 23rd, and that's the last date visualized, just simply because that's today. But each day, this spectrum will grow over time, and we'll start to really get a true visualization of their behavior as it relates to visitation. Now, we're tracking more data than this because anytime the mods post an entry into the system, it automatically captures what's the temperature and a few other factors, because I think what we'll see over time when we start looking at feeding, deliveries, and hunting, we'll start to see that temperature and wind speed have an effect on these things. So this, like I said, is the first implementation of it. Anybody can go there and see it on the homepage, and you'll see more implementations of that over time. but we wanted to kind of share that with you tonight because it's a new feature that just went live about an hour ago. Jonathan, our in-house code guru who does all my web stuff and helps me at my companies, put this together for us. And this is just a great way that we can kind of add some science into this experience. So what do you think of that?
I think it's going to be it's very helpful. I think it's really smart, especially how it's all put together. But it's good that we do have a feature like that, so we can see things where they visit.
Right. So speaking of visitation, we had a really surprise, lengthy visit. I don't remember a time when we didn't have baby owls. I don't remember a time when both Altera and Mr. T were on the nest as long as they were the other night. And we have some video of that. This hasn't been posted yet. This is a different perspective. I have a few extra cameras that I can use to capture some alternative views. And so this was the 20th. What night was that? I think that was Saturday night. Yeah, Saturday night, Steve. Yeah, around 11ish. And so Mr. Tiger shows up and just hangs out kind of quietly.
Yeah, he does. He was just kind of...
And everybody was wondering, is Altera going to show? Is she going to show? And we'll keep this up, and you can kind of watch it as we talk. But, so a lot of people are wondering what's going on here. Why are those eggs still there? Why are they not laying new eggs? Why are they not hanging out at the nest? Mm-hmm. I think the short answer is we don't really know.
Yeah.
We can say what's happened in the past, and we can say that will likely shed some light on what could happen here in the near future. But I had mentioned earlier, Bob Pruner. He goes by Robert Pruner, I believe, in chat or on Facebook. But he made a post in our mod group page, which is kind of where we share information and discuss things on a not-so-public level. But he made a really insightful post of taking his knowledge and experience and kind of bringing some grounded reality to what we're witnessing and what we're seeing. And so with his permission, I'd kind of like to just share what he said, because I think it will bring some perspective to those who are really worried about this. So Bob, he lives in Canada. He's got some great stories to tell. Hopefully we'll tell some of those in future episodes of Q&A. But let's just put it this way. He spends a lot of time studying owls in the wild, in real life, not just academically, not just reading books, even though that's part of what he does. But he's got some amazing photos and amazing videos, one of which, by the way, was used in a major TV show at one point. We'll talk about whether or not sometime in the future we might be able to play that. I don't know what the rights are on that. Mm-hmm. But let's just say he knows his stuff. So I'm going to kind of read his summary. He said that, I've seen this in a number of nests that I monitor around Alberta over the years. It's hard to know why a female owl may decide not to incubate her eggs. Theories include she may be young and inexperienced. We talked about that a lot last week, and I think that's probably a lot of what's going on here. It was estimated last year that Altera was maybe just a year old at the time, and we think that's probably a big case here, is immaturity. She may have sensed that something was wrong with those particular eggs that we couldn't see or that we couldn't detect, and so that's a good possibility. She may have had a temporary underlying illness at the time, and or a slight injury, something that could have just caused her to not really feel like incubation was the right thing at that time. We haven't seen any evidence of that. If anything, we've seen evidence that maybe Mr. Tiger is the one who's maybe got a little sickness, like a sore throat, because he's had that kind of cute horse hoot that he's been doing lately. You guys are getting a good taste of how long Mr. T stood there for, waiting on Altera. Other theories he shared that she may have been disturbed by an intruder or some conditions around the nest that made her feel that the chosen spot wasn't secure enough to use as a nest site at that time. There's some theories that have been posted, about what are the cameras, do the cameras scare? Well, I think history proves otherwise, since Mrs. Tiger clearly didn't mind them. Altera nested successfully last year. And so, I don't want to sound overly defensive about the technology, but I'm quite certain that there's a good track record of knowing they're not scared of the cameras, because they clearly pay attention to other things when they are at the nest ledge.
Yeah.
Lastly, he said she may feel that the current prey availability or weather patterns aren't optimal for raising a family, and that's another big thing that we know is true, because food supply has a lot to do with often how many eggs they lay, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been talking a lot here, but interject if you've got any other thoughts or theories.
Yeah.
But he said that mostly we really never know for certain what is going on in her mind, except when an egg abandonment clearly coincides with one of the above factors. So for those asking, I think that it has to do with maturity, and maybe just the fact that she doesn't quite have the cycle down yet in a way that she's experienced enough to repeat it.
Of course.
So.
And I mean, we know that this isn't just Altera, because we saw the first 2 years we actually knew about Mrs. Tiger. In the past, she did the exact same thing. For the first 2 years, she laid her eggs, and she sat on them for about 2 or 3 days, abandoned them, did the same thing next year.
Yeah.
And then the year after that was the first season of the official OKCOwlCam. So we know for certain that this isn't just something that Altera is doing. So we're pretty sure, for her it's a maturity thing.
Right.
And yeah.
Yeah, and I think some plenty of people out there have theories, and we often get asked like, what about this? Maybe does she think this? And I've always said that it's very natural for us humans to try to project human intellect and human logic onto these owls as though it somehow translates. And the truth is that there may be 1,000 reasons that we can't even think of that could be affecting that decision, right?
Yeah.
We just hope in faith that we're going to see what happened last year, which is a return to the nest. Right before we came live here in the studio, Mr. Tiger made a visit, which was super cool. I thought, well, I guess we can delay the show and wait and see what happens before we go live here, because I didn't want to cut the feed while people were watching that and having that experience. So yeah, all right. So how about we take some questions?
Yes.
Yeah. For that. Steve, I'm going to post the video that you're running. I'll post that in the coming days onto the YouTube page so that people can enjoy that entire thing. It's obviously a lengthy video, and we haven't quite seen Altera make her approach there. But if we want to cut away from that, I want to kind of show the three criteria of good questions for Q&A, because I know we get a lot of people ask. So I forgot to mention these last week, but this has kind of historically been the way we decide what questions we take. And so we have kind of three things. Make your questions not general common knowledge that you can easily Google, or that isn't already in the OKCOwlCam.com FAQ, or common questions that are covered in chat. We prefer to try to cover questions that really only you and I can answer from the perspective of our experience, or the experience of your mom and Giovanna. Speaking of Giovanna, hey Giovanna, we love you. And Xavier, who's probably in bed sleeping by now. But these are the kind of criteria that we'd like you to try to make your questions fit within. And understand that this chat window is whizzing by while we're live, and we can't catch everything. So be patient with us if we don't cover it. I think we upset a few people last week because maybe we missed it, or they felt like we were ignoring them. That's not really the case. We do sometimes choose which questions we do and don't take. Maybe it's because we've answered it previously, or we don't have a good answer for it at the moment. So why don't you pick the first question?
All right. Let's see. Give me a chance to read some of these. Last year, you mentioned that your neighbors also had great horned owls nesting. Are they there again? Yes, our good friend. The
Ferguson?
The Ferguson's owls haven't come back.
So Mr. Craig and I had a conversation about this just this morning. Ironically, the neighbors he's my business partner.
Oh yeah.
So we office together. I mean, this project we're in here, the alley at Port 164 is one of our commercial projects that we're partners on. They live about a half a mile away in the same neighborhood, half mile to the east.
Yeah. They have planter boxes as well as we do.
That's exactly right. So they have last year they had a clutch of eggs that hatched. I believe 2 of them successfully hatched. No, 3 of them successfully hatched. And of course, the first thing that comes to mind for me, and I remember talking to your mom about this, is that, wow, that's got to be one of the kids of the Tigers, because, what other owls would have felt comfortable in a house ledge? Maybe that's what they grew up in, so that's where they went to. Truth is we don't really know. It's just difficult to really recognize them once they're mature like that. But so they are not nesting there this year. But Craig did tell me this morning that they heard a lot of activity just last night in the area. So he thinks that maybe they're about to nest somewhere close by, but it's not the exact same spot on their house.
Yes. And someone asked, they could go to Nindy still. No, my grandparents live next door, and 2 years ago, the owls chose. They had a few planter boxes outside of their house, and the owls happened to choose that. No, actually, Nindy and Papa, they took their planter boxes out just to kind of be a little
encourage them
to come to our house, because around our area in Altera Mr. Tiger's territory, no one but us has planter boxes that they would be able to nest in, like they do in ours. So, yeah.
So, a question there from Alicia: how does Altera's size compare to Mrs. T? One of the more notable things I recall us observing about her is that she's bigger.
She's big.
Obviously, when she has eggs yet to lay, that I think affects her size clearly. Mm-hmm. But I just think generally she's taller. She's a bit more of a massive bird, I think, a little more intimidating perhaps than Mrs. Tiger was too. And then I also think that she has much more colorful eyes.
Oh, she does. Her eyes are just Mrs. Tiger's was really colorful, but Altera's eyes just pop. They're
Yeah. So Lorena wants to know if we think we could recognize any of the babies if they were to ever come back.
No, because once the owlets do leave the nest to the point where we don't really see them, they aren't fully developed when it comes to their feathers, so we don't really get time to kind of notice things about them that are going to stay there until they're adults, or stay there while they're adults. So pretty much no, we can't recognize them. But since the tiger family is a huge extended family, whenever we see other owls that aren't Mrs. Altera and Mr. Tiger, then we automatically assume that's one of the owlets. So,
Steve, did you have a question?
I see a question here from Casey Mary, wanting to know if any animal TV shows have asked to show the owls.
Yeah, well, so we've had a few experiences with some opportunities. I regularly do hear from, I don't know if we'd call them channels necessarily, but different live stream Facebook groups or other pages who ask, hey, can we restream your feed? And I've allowed that to happen a couple times in the past. I think my policies changed on that because I've noticed that sometimes they try to cut out our logo, or they try to cut out our information and try to brand it as though it's their content, and then potentially they monetize it or are sort of leveraging it in a way that benefits them but sort of circumvents helping us build our audience, which is educational. Mm-hmm. But we did have a crew, a contract crew that had done work for Discovery Channel, National Geographic, some of the big animal movies and productions. We had a crew come spend a week at our house we really didn't publicize 2 seasons ago, right? It wasn't last season. It was 2 seasons ago.
Yes, and 2 official seasons.
They spent a week kind of spending the night up in the theater room getting some pretty wicked footage of the owls for potential use in a show, and I do believe it made some of their productions in Canada. Unfortunately, I don't think that we're allowed to stream that in America just for licensing reasons. But Steve, you see any others that we missed in that long answer?
There's one more. Is there any way of telling anything about an owl's health from a dissected pellet?
Probably some stomach, any infection from the stomach or something. But
I would think with maybe some advanced tests. That would be a good answer, a good question for one of the experts when we have them on.
Yeah.
At some point.
Any other questions? Because the owl mug. Oh yeah, I got this from my Aunt Jana. She's awesome. She actually just spent a week here. She went back Saturday. But yeah, this is like my favorite mug ever. Aunt Jana, love her. It's amazing. Yeah.
Okay, so Casey is asking us if we'll make sure that we repeat the question before we answer it. So let's just make sure we do that.
Oh yeah. So that last question was, where did I get my mug? From my aunt.
Someone had actually a question that was more for Desiree and I to answer about our approach on this. Lisa, it's spelled Lesa, so it's either Lisa or Lessa. Lessa Dickerson emailed me and said, how do you help and teach your children about disappointment? Or Alessondra's teaching younger siblings when eggs didn't make it, or when Mrs. Tiger passed away.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give my answer, but I'd love to hear. Actually, before I give my answer, how would you answer that? What have your mom and I done that maybe has helped you through some of this, if anything? I don't want to be presumptuous, but
I mean, I don't know how to. I don't know really how to answer that.
Okay.
So.
Well, maybe what I say might give you something to piggyback off of. I think first and foremost, we try to remain completely factual and honest.
Yeah.
Honest about reality, intellectually honest about the significance or insignificance of certain things. Even down to, and I know we may have small children watching, but we've always been very honest with you and your sister about things like folklore and Christmas and folklore and Easter and folklore in when you lose a tooth. You've always known the truth about that, right?
Yes.
So I feel like that's been integral in you and Giovanna so far, and hopefully soon Xavier as he grows up, to be fairly well grounded in kind of a realistic view of things.
Yes.
We didn't shield you from the Mrs. Tiger incident.
No.
We felt like that you deserved, I hate the term closure, but that's really, there's no other better word for it, that you deserved to know what happened, when it happened, and you had a right and an opportunity to say goodbye to her.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was the one time and only time you got to hold her.
Or, touch her and all that.
Yeah. So, I don't know, that sounds kind of like a downer answer, but I just think that reality and truth is kind of the best policy. Now, I will say on the flip side of that we realize that you're growing children and you don't necessarily, and you're not capable of handling everything and all truth at a young age, but we try to give you more of a dose of it than to shelter you from it, because I think in the long run that's gonna benefit you as you grow. So that's my attempt at answering that question. It was a great question.
I love
those
kinds of questions. It was a really good question.
So.
You had a great answer.
Yeah. So did that give you any other thoughts on it?
I think I'm just seconding what you said. Like, I mean, I've always, I appreciate you guys straightforward with stuff. So whenever you kind of just been straightforward with things like Mrs. Tiger and all that. I mean, it's just kind of
another thing too is understanding science.
Oh yeah, science is cool.
The fact that it's sad that those eggs got abandoned, but there may be good reasons why. And we can't project how sad that would be in a human scenario. We can't really equate that to Altera and say that she's a bad mom because she abandoned her eggs. I mean, there's just so much that we don't know that it's.
Yes.
So we try to keep it on a practical level, right?
And I saw 2 more questions. One from Jigglypuff. Still love your name. Does Alessondra have access on her smartphone to see the Nest Cam 24/7 and Pequot school? I don't have a phone.
That's right.
So I mean, I don't really look in at school. I'm pretty busy at school. As Alessondra, have you done any more presentations for school or other? Are you going to be? I mean, I haven't really gone to any other schools, but sometime in the future, my 7th grade class in science, we're going to be dissecting owl pellets, and my teacher, Miss Bates, she's heard of the OKCOwlCam, so she wants me to do a little presentation about the OKCOwlCam. Then, Yeah,
I would love to still kind of do the speaking circuit that we did when you were younger, but our schedule is so compressed now.
So we had to move the Q&A actually, because we're all like,
well, that's part of why we do the Q&As, because we don't have time to do the videos on the weekends like we used to. So how tall is Altera and Mr. T? From our perspective, it's difficult to know. Also, is there a way we will be able to take pics of the owls this year? Well, I mean, you can take screenshots. I think if that's what they're asking, we're not doing anything that prevents that. How tall are they? I would think. I think we've said in the past, just standing upright, 18 to 22 inches.
Yeah, Altera's. I think Altera's a bit bigger though because she's about.
That's not gonna. Yeah.
She's bigger.
I think Mr. Tiger is a little sleeker, and
yeah.
I've always kind of thought he was kind of like the sports car of owls. He's just kind of a, he's got a slick suit on and a little bow tie, and he just kind of darts around and does his thing, and like a little Russell Westbrook of owls maybe.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, Mr. Tiger's like the sports car model, and like I don't know, like Altera's like the luxury model. She's all like fluffy.
The Escalade.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She's like the. I don't know if he's Russell Westbrook. Is she like the Steven Adams or whatever?
Well, I don't
What's
know
up?
if that fits. So Steven Adams.
Oh no. Okay.
Go on, gush a little bit. Go on.
Oh, I just zoomed in, Steve.
You got to explain who this guy is you're talking about.
Steven Adams is the greatest basketball player ever. He's the most attractive basketball player ever. He's on the Thunder, and he's 7 feet tall. He's awesome. He's got this like beard. He's got this long hair, and he's totally dope. It's really funny actually because
it's hilarious.
One of my best friends, Jackson, got to meet him the other night. And so there's a picture of Jackson and Steven Adams.
I wish I'd known we were going to talk about this. I would have had it ready.
And I'm like, what? Steven Adams is awesome. Oh.
All right, let's
Steven
move on
Adams.
to another song. So, Steve, have we missed any questions in the last?
I saw one here from Biology Prof 94 asking about any local ornithologists, if I said that right, approached you to study this pair of owls.
We have Rondi at Wildcare, Oklahoma.
Yeah, keep talking.
That we call and she's available and responsive to us. I think she's probably so busy rehabbing and taking care of other animals that she probably doesn't get to drop in too much on studying our owls, but she's very familiar with them. I had a brief conversation with her last week, in fact, and she does keep up with it. But we haven't had any other local, I would say, researchers. I don't know that we have a terrible amount of them in the area, but I suppose we'd be open to the right opportunities there.
I would also like to say, Mom, we've talked about this. Yes, he is the most attractive basketball player.
Let's not get in an argument with your mom.
No, it's not James Harden. James Harden broke my heart. Do I have time to tell the story?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm little. I'm in Walmart. I'm like, how old was I?
You don't need to go into all the other side stories about it.
Okay, I was about 3 years old. We're in Walmart checkout line. I turn around. I see this dude's feet. I look up. It's this dude with this big bushy beard. I'm like, do you play with Mr. Kevin? He's like, Kevin.
You're talking about Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant, because because he rented our house from us, and he was like, Kevin who? I was like, Kevin Durant, and I was like, okay, yeah, he lived in our house, and I'm saying at the time he was renting our house. He looks at my mom like, is she serious? My mom goes, yeah. So anyway, I meet him in Walmart. We're talking for a bit, and then like 2 weeks later, me and my mom are in Subway. James Harden walks in, guy from Walmart, and I run to him. He goes, there's my girl, picks me up and hugs me. Then he leaves Thunder. And that was my first heartbreak.
I do remember how heartbroken you were about that. You have a great picture of him holding you at Subway. If I'd known you were going to tell that story, I would have had that ready to show.
Well,
you got to start prepping me about what's on your agenda.
Someone said James Harden. Says, oh, yeah, Des, it's right. James Harden.
Okay, can we bring this back to owls? I want some real questions instead
of
my daughter going off on all the guys that she thinks.
No, I never had a crush on him. I was 3.
Okay.
He was my friend. Okay.
That's going off the rails here.
Oh, see? Yes. No, Steven Adams is not bad looking. He's a great looking.
So I did see a question go by a while ago. Is there a point where I think cameras start to be a distraction for the owls? There have been times in past seasons where I have definitely detected that maybe they had an effect on them. There was a year, the first years that they were on the ledge, I wanted to protect. I didn't know how far these cameras could go in the weather. So I got one of those big boxes that you kind of see on the wall of a building, which protects a camera, right? And I put that out there. And I'm talking to you. People are going to think you're not paying attention.
They can't see me. I'm reading chat.
So I thought that would be necessary to protect the cameras. And Mrs. Tiger would not come back to the ledge. She would sit on the house across the street and just sit there, and she wouldn't come back. And that was kind of unusual. So that's an example of when, but again, this was like 6 years ago, when my sense was that maybe that had been an overreach or an overstep. Since then, I think people have been really sensitive to this topic unnecessarily, because I think that, we have a perspective, a close by perspective, and we get to see it from other vantage points from just what the cameras show. And so I think we get a greater sense of what they're paying attention to and what they're not. We know what they're sensitive to. For instance, part of why this whole OKCOwlCam came about was because we didn't want you scaring her off whenever you ran up to the window like you used to at first. And then we had to start locking the theater room doors. And so we learned what are their tolerance points, and we were very careful to not overstep that. I think there's not really an abundantly more amount of technology sitting on that ledge than have been there in years past. I think people are just getting a bit broader perspective of it and seeing more of it. And so it's causing them to think that there's more there than there has been in the past, and there's not really. So.
And I actually, relating to that, a question by Megan, wouldn't they just get used to the cameras being there? And actually, so over time, we actually kind of earned Mrs. Tiger's trust, because I started to notice, the first season, she was skittish, she heard a sound, she flew away, but, after more seasons went by, I think you kind of noticed this too, how she became more comfortable. She was like, okay, they're not gonna, these giant human things.
Yeah, and she wouldn't dive bomb or anything. If I needed to make an adjustment or something, she'd sit on the roof across the street, keep an eye on me, and never snap her beak at me and never fly at me.
Yeah.
Someone asked, will I move the center camera when owlets are born? Yeah. If you've watched in years past, the cameras change position a lot.
Oh yeah, they do.
So right now it's in the middle so that we get a view. I need to be able to show you guys a view. If someone comes to take care of the eggs that are there, I want to be able to see that nest. But then if they come to dig at the other pot, which they have been, I want to be able to turn the camera to see that. So I'm just trying to provide vantage points that people like, because if I somehow fall short of providing a vantage point of a certain spot where the action is, I hear about it tenfold for not being able to provide a good view of it. So, and obviously if you look at it, I've clearly gone out of my way to try to camouflage the cameras. The PVC casing that keeps the camera protected. These aren't outdoor cameras, so I have to protect them, and they're not cheap either. But I stuccoed them and painted them the exact color of the house so that they just blend in, and so. Yeah. How old? See, there's a beach. Yes. Yeah. So how old do we think Altera is?
We think Altera, based on also some professional or experts in owls, we think she's about 2 years old. So she's young, and like we said, immature or not mature yet.
It's not to say that she's deficient and lacking skills or ability. I think it's just that she doesn't quite have this motherhood thing down yet because she doesn't have enough experience with it. I think that's what we're probably another way we're saying. So.
And like I said, so did Mrs. Tiger. So this is a normal thing, as we've seen.
So Margaret says, maybe you can post pics of Altera and Mr. T and point out the different characteristics of how each owl, so more of us recognize which is which. Okay, so Margaret, I would suggest that you join some of the fan pages like After Owl Club. There's a couple in there that I think mods can help share. Mary Monson is our kind of in-house artist. She does an impeccable job at this. In fact, she's in chat. I see her right there.
Yeah, Mary is
She has some of the most detailed comparisons of Altera and Mr. Tiger, Mrs. Tiger and Altera, the baby owls from each year. She's often correcting me on whether or not I misidentify. Like if I think it's Mrs. Tiger or Mr. Tiger and I post a video and cite one or the other and it's not, she'll instant message me and say, hey, I think you got this. You probably need to correct this one because I'm sure that's Mr. Tiger and not Altera. So that's probably I would say that to your question, that has been done and those images are out there.
Yes. So, I saw a question. Yeah, do they all stay year round or where do they go? No, so they're just there during the season, which ends about really early spring, I want to say, and we start hearing them around October. After they fledge, no, we normally don't see them in the summer, maybe 1 or 2 times, but we don't know where they go. We have no way of telling that, like we can't track them, but yeah, I think we've always wondered that from season 1, like where do they go during the off season? Where does Mr. Tiger hang out when he's not, hunting for the misses? And so, yeah.
So Lisa asked a question for me. It's already scrolled up, so I'm just going to paraphrase it. Have I always been technologically interested and inclined, or is this just stuff that I've kind of learned because of the OKCOwlCam? I would say that a little bit of both. I've always been very technologically interested, was involved in a lot of behind-the-scenes production from high school. Went into college. My undergrad is in broadcasting and broadcasting and computer science. So it's always been an interest of mine, having that experience. This is kind of a way I can put those skills to use, and just kind of having that foundation of knowledge has been helpful, I would say, in letting me get up to speed on what equipment would work best for this project. And I'm not one of those dudes who has the old Mustang in his garage that I tinker with on Saturdays. So this is kind of my old Mustang in the garage, I guess, right? Steve? Is that a good analogy? I mean, you can get behind that, right?
That would be so cool if we had an old Mustang, though. That would be
old Mustang.
Yeah, that'd be cool. We could drive around.
All right, what else? Do they stay together all year or only get together for breeding? I don't know.
Sleep. No, they great horned owls mate for life.
On a seasonal basis, do they spend the summers together? I think I saw Bob post about this once, and I don't remember what he said. So Mary or moderators or Bob, if you're in there, maybe answer that question.
There's also a really good question. Hey, Dad, do you sleep?
Oh yeah, Lisa follows up, or Sky Lessa follows up. I think that's the same Lessa that asked the question earlier, Lessa Dickerson.
What's up?
Do I sleep? And when Mr. T arrives in the middle of the night randomly, how are you right there to zoom in on the owls? No. I've never really been up in the middle of the night. I think the other night, whenever both of them were there, that was like at 11 something.
Yeah,
was that a weekend, as I recall? I get a lot more sleep now than I used to in previous seasons. Originally on Ustream, I mean the connection, the live stream would disconnect in the middle of the night all the time. And my phone would just go off the hook, from texts and calls, and I had to kind of put some boundaries into when I would or would not be willing to be woken up. But back to the previous question, through research, I found some technological solutions to help stabilize connections, and for the last 2 or 3 years, it's been pretty rock solid. So I don't remember the last time I've had to get up in the middle of the night to do something.
It's pretty stable, thanks to you, Dad.
Yeah. So
I saw one. I forgot who asked, but asking how you can tell the difference between the male and female. Owls.
Yeah. So the male and female owl, obviously not obviously. I'm sorry. The females are bigger than males. I mean, it kind of depends on the pair. They're different. Markings and aspects and all that. So if you're talking about a specific pair, Altera has got this huge thing of white right here. She hoots and it goes all it's all white. And it's just their markings. That's how you tell them apart.
And the hoots.
And the hooting patterns are their hooting patterns are as different as our fingerprints. So yeah. So I'm reading chat right now. Yeah, if you guys have any other questions, that'd be cool.
If we came upon a great horned owl, let's see. If you came upon a great horned owl, how would I tell you or could not? Beach Bum, try that again so I can understand you better. D. Jewett wants to know, so what's happening? Are they going to have eggs this season?
Hopefully, yeah.
So D, yeah, the answer to that question based on past experience is that yes, there's a very strong chance that we'll have more eggs. We had 3 sets of 2 last year, and we've only had 1 set of 2 this year so far. There was a month in between the original and the last set. You seem excited about something.
Yes. My homegirl, Avery's mom, Mrs. Jones, what's up? Would like to know if you're going to buy me an old Mustang. Please?
Well, I mean, you're starting to save for a car.
I'm going to start saving for a car, yes.
We'll see that. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, that would be so cool. Mrs. Jones, if, we could do a show on how to rebuild a Mustang, you could be in the show, too, if you want. Yes, Holly, if you want to buy me a Mustang, that would be totally great.
All right, let's keep it on topic here. If Ann18 says, if there's no nesting this year, will you still hold out hope for next year? I know it will be a big adjustment for the viewers and mods. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
keep the studio
we
up.
kind of have a lot of faith riding on this season happening because we've kind of gone through a lot of trouble to get ready for it. So
yeah. Oh, do I want a phone or a Mustang if I had the choice? Why not both?
Look
right
at that.
now,
Talking to the mic.
Yeah, right now a phone. I think for my first car, I'm not going to get a souped up sports car. If I was 17 right now, I can't decide.
Owls, people. Owls. That's what we're here to discuss.
Okay. I'm sorry. Owls. You guys. Me too. I'd ugly sob if there was no eggs. Also, shout out to Nindy. Love you. Phones are less expensive. Yeah, until Apple comes out with the
Owls.
iPhone 20.
Owls.
Okay, I'm sorry.
D wants to know, do we think they nested somewhere else? No, I don't think that.
No.
I think that they're in between her I don't know what the proper terminology here is, but the time of developing the fertilized eggs, I think she's in that time. And I don't have any reason to believe that they've nested elsewhere.
Benny would like to know, is there a large field nearby where do they find rabbits and such for food? Yes, there's a lot. Across the street from our house.
Well, I think generally speaking, there's the whole commercial part.
There's a huge field.
There's probably 20 acres of commercial property within 100 yards of our house. There's the golf course. There's a lot of common area with ponds and trees, that surround the entire development. So
yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes. There's a lot.
And did the owls ever come close to people or even attack? No one's ever really been attacked, but I mean, a few people have gotten really close, like we talked about last week.
Yeah, Beach, if you're talking about these specific owls, no, we have not seen any instances of attack. We've seen instances of warnings, but owls in general, they've been known to attack. Mm-hmm. Have you heard the... Okay, yeah, so Joanne wants to know if we've heard the tea kettling close to your home this season. Yes, there have been many viewers who have witnessed that.
And let's see here. I'm sorry, I'm reading all these. Okay, Sharon, just real quick. Who did the studio decorating? My dad did all of this. He had all these ideas. He did a great job building the studio.
Oh, she says these are real trees.
Yes.
I went and cut these down, and they're in buckets of concrete, so these aren't painted. I wish I could paint that well, but...
Oh, whoa, did these I guess that one kind of does look painted. That's cool.
Yeah. 2 viable eggs were laid in February. Yeah, Betsy. So we talked about this at length last week, where there was right at a month exactly in between the first set of eggs when they were first laid and the last final set of eggs that she succeeded with. So there's still plenty of time in this. We think that we'll see some activity here soon. The fact that they came for a long visit and that Mr. Tiger's been hitting the other pot and digging and those are all signs of nest prep that we believe is still indicative of something to come. So,
yeah, I thought those were Jigglypuff said I thought those were green string trees. No, these are real trees. You can't see. My arm was just around it. My arm was around this tree, hugging the tree.
So we have about 5 minutes left.
Aw.
And so, I want to cover a couple things I had on the agenda before we wrap up here because we go for an hour. We want to respect the moderator's time. We want to respect Steve's time, and you've got classes tomorrow, so we've got to make sure you're in bed on time. But so we talked about the canvas last year, which is for those who weren't, or last week, for those who weren't with us. This is a screenshot, kind of an affected piece I did, printed on canvas of a close-up of Mrs. Tiger. And we are considering, of course, in the past we've done fundraisers for different causes. We feel like it's a little premature in this season to really go full force into a project like that. But if and when the season progresses and we have a commitment of actual owls hatching, we generally do a fundraiser and try to leverage this as an opportunity for greater good.
Yes.
And so we will probably be auctioning this off, likely on eBay, where part of the proceeds will go towards one of those charities that we choose. And I have other ideas for what could be here on a weekly basis. Of course, we also have the famous Hatch Watch contest.
Yes.
Our beloved artist Mary has committed once again to providing paintings, what she has done in the past. And I'm not speaking for her here. She has full right to change her mind about what she paints, but what she's done in the past is for every baby owl that hatches, she does a painting of that owl. Mm-hmm. And as we await their hatching, viewers get to put in their guesses for what day and time each egg hatches. Mm-hmm. And the one that gets closest to each respective egg gets the painting for that owl.
Yes, and
it's a lot of fun. I mean, we have thousands of entries. You'll enter on OKCOwlCam.com. We haven't activated that yet for this season because it's not time. But so those are things to come. We have a lot of exciting plans, new things this year, and we'll be revisiting some old things. Remember, we have the new data visualization that we've released on OKCOwlCam.com. That's always on the homepage there. We'll be adding other examples of how that data is going to be useful. But we want to invite you to, if you're on Instagram, follow us. All of the social sites, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, we go by OKCOwlCam on all of those, as well as YouTube. So if you're not a follower on any of those platforms, but you participate in those platforms, we'd love to have the follow. Mm-hmm. And we just really look forward to kind of what's ahead, right?
Of course. Yeah.
So 2 more minutes. Any final thoughts for tonight as we wrap up?
Thank you guys for watching. I just like to say, Mary, she's amazing. She's a great person. Her paintings are awesome. I follow her on Pinterest. She's so cool.
And she's local.
Yeah, she's local.
Right here.
Yeah, she is. So just like thank you to Steve. Thank you for doing all the tech stuff and our mods and our viewers, everyone who watches.
These moderators are great. They put in time. This is a volunteer basis. They're committed. They're knowledgeable. They've done a lot of research, a lot of studying. Mm-hmm. Anytime there's a need, they meet it, and they're so great in helping out with their chatters and with our viewers. So we love you guys. We appreciate that. Thank you to the viewers who take the time out of your schedule to watch us. And so Nest, real quick, I'm trying to cut down on all the stuff I have to manage. So we're trying to move more towards live questions on the chat. So Nest Peeper asked that question. Are we taking them by email? There may be a moderator who soon starts to compile those by email for us, but I'm trying to avoid having to juggle a ton of email because we already get so much as it is on this. Mm-hmm. So this episode will be posted within the next several days on YouTube and on our Facebook channel. Yes. The plan is to always make them available after the fact for those who don't get to see us live, or if anybody wants to go back and watch anything. So hopefully as we review this one, Steve, we've kind of worked out the kinks. It's felt good.
It has.
Appreciate all your time and effort.
Thank you, Steve.
So with that, I will sign off and say God bless.
Yes,
What do you want to say?
Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Yeah.
See episode 2. Alessondra out.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so bye.
So we're going to be